civilization. The collapse of civilization. The collapse of civilization.
Yes.
Hi, Jeannie. Hi, Faye.
Rick, hi. Hi, Chuck.
God, all this table hopping. All this partying.
It's such a drag.
Oh, hi, Betsy. How you doing? Hey, Bobby. Yeah. Hi, Fred.
Oh, Pete, hi. Hi, Fred. Hi, Stan.
God, don't they ever let up? What are they all overcompensating for?
Really, it's too Freudian.
Oh, hi, Carol. Hey, Ross. Candy, how you doing? Hey, Bev. Oh, Gigi. Oh, hey, Sue.
Oh, Rock, hi. Oh, hi, Dean. Hi, Buzz. Lee, hi. Oh, hi, Red.
How I'll ever get through lunch hours beyond me. How often are you down here?
Well, I guess every day, pretty much.
Hey, Flo! Hi! Gail! Elaine! Oh, Doris! How you doing, Doris? Oh, Janet! Hi, May. Peggy!
Oh, hi, Casey. Mark, hi. Hi, Toby. Hi, Lauren. Oh, hi, Tony. Hi, Tony. Oh, hi, Billy. Nat, hi.
God, they lead such empty lives.
I found a flower. I found a flower. Well, my flower's big and beautiful and extremely robust. That's true. Your flower's dark and ungainly and probably won't live till morning. It will certainly be a struggle. I love my flower for its richness and grandeur. I love my flower for its spiritual value. What spiritual values? My flower is a tragic flower. It has soul. It has poetry. Just because my flower is bigger, it can't have poetry? My flower must struggle for hourly survival. It is taken with basics. It broods about the deep things. Are you calling my flower a dilettante? Your flower's rich and probably has a leisure problem. Well, I suddenly feel like beating your flower over the head with my flower. My flower would die lovingly. I apologize. I have a vulgar flower. My flower truly understands.
It's always been a struggle for me to find my place in society. That's why I have to read books. For instance, in college, I thought I was doing fine, until I read that mine was a silent generation. So I shut up. After college, I went into industry and thought I was doing fine, till I read that I was really a conformist organization man. So I went out and conformed and belonged. Well, I began making a lot of money and felt I was doing fine, till I read that, in truth, I was a member of an acquisitive society. So I bought things. Of course, not a lot of time on my hands, but I felt fine, till I read that my income group had a leisure problem. So I learned hobbies. Now, for a while there, I felt fine, until I read that the root problem of my affluent society was status seeking. Now, in between being silent, conforming, belonging, acquiring, and taking care of my leisure problem, I haven't yet had a chance to seek status. I guess I'll fit in somehow.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm simply trying to make a point.
There's a difference between making a point and embarking on a sadistic attack.
If sadism is your equivalent to impartial judgment, then I admit to being a sadist.
How easy to be flip when one precludes responsibility.
How irresponsible of one so irresponsible to speak of irresponsibility.
If you must project your own inadequacies into a discussion of the facts, I see no point in carrying this further.
How like you to use an attack as a disguise for a retreat.
Ah, but if we're not arguing as you so heatedly claim, what is it I'm retreating from?
I think I'm getting a stomachache.
Me too.
Let's knock off and go to a movie.
Okay.
Florence,
Yes, Henry.
how long has it been now since we were married?
What? 6 years? 7? When exactly was it, Henry?
Let's see, was it before or after the Cosby Show?
I think it was between the Cosby Show and Family Ties. Henry, is that right?
Oh yeah, because I remember the night of our first anniversary. I still warm at the glow of it, Florence.
Yeah, Soleil Moonfry, Punky Brewster.
And shortly after that, our little Punky was born.
I remember, the Barbara Walters special.
Those were beautiful years, Florence.
Where do you think it all began to go wrong, Henry?
I don't know. I thought a lot about it. Do you think it was Kung Fu, the legend continues?
Or maybe it was Miami Vice. It just never was the same after the A-Team, Henry.
Don't cry, Florence. When violence enters your life, I guess everything changes.
But I don't believe I can ever forgive Mr. T, Henry.
Don't cast blame, my darling. Reality is cruel. I learned that from Beverly Hills, 90210.
I didn't know life could be that way, Henry. Are we ready for that sort of world?
Ready or not, we must face it bravely.
And Punky? What about Punky?
Punky too, Florence. Punky too.
What's on next?
Seinfeld.
I'll go bring her in. give. Won't somebody take it?
Innocent love? Well, I'm sure innocent love is nice and all that, but it has a tendency to inhibit me.
I've undemanding love to give. Won't somebody take it?
Undemanding love gives me guilt feeling. You might want to try someone else.
I have love that's never been taught to give. Surely somebody will take it.
On half-loved grounds. Better try elsewhere.
I have stifled love to give. Isn't anybody going to take it?
Stifled love makes me nervous. You're bound to find someone else. I got my own problems.
I have nothing to give.
Why, you poor thing. Why don't you come up to my place and we'll talk about it?
Majority with another hour of moral uplift. Today our guest is Ms. Brooke Banner. You are a cook, Ms. Banner? Yes, Maury. I cook books. You write cookbooks, Ms. Banner? No, ma'am. I cook books. I pluck right books out of schools and off library shelves. I stick them in a pot. I add arouse in magazines for flavor and bring quickly to a boil. Stick in a 750-degree oven for about 12 hours, or until black. And what do you call your recipe, Ms. Banner? Fox roast.
I believe that I have come up with the meaning of John Lennon's death. I believe that there's a great star shooter in heaven who picks superstars to shoot. If you're a good leader, the star shooter shoots you. And if you get on the charts, the star shooter shoots you. If you find the cure to cancer, the star shooter shoots you. So, if you want to stay alive, don't distinguish yourself. The star shooter's watching.
Is that your flower? No, it's not my flower. I'm just looking at it. It's a lovely flower. May I look at it with you? Do as you please. As I told you, it's not my flower. Some people object to other people looking at flowers with them. I'd be lonely if I had to look at this flower all by myself. I only watch and wait for someone to come along and look at it with me. Then you really don't love the flower. You're just using it. I give as much to the flower gives to me. What beauty has an unwatched flower? Do people often come along and watch with you? No, you're the first in a long time. Sounds very lonely for you. Why do you watch? How else do you meet people in the city?
A dance to the loss of innocence. In this dance,
like a teacher. 25, 30, I'd be dead by then, man. Man, I'd want to be dead. I couldn't make 30, man, listening to rock and roll, talking fake jive, dancing the monkey, the swim, the jerk, watching the news, being laughed at by us, and never knowing it. That ain't for me, man. That's for children.
Mr. Mergeneiler, this is Miss Bland of the Pink Foundation. We have received your application for an endowment. I'd like a few further details. As you know, Mr. Mergeneiler, the Pink Foundation is authorized to give financial grants to unworthy causes. Can you prove that you qualify? Then you do have references. Good, good. Your mother, all your teachers, your past employers. No, Mr. Mergeneiler, I don't think the names of girlfriends will be necessary. Now, Mr. Mergeneiler, if you did receive a grant for this project, what would you do with the money? You'd fritter it away, I see. In what manner, may I ask? You'd sit in bed all day and read mysteries. Perfectly delightful, Mr. Mergeneiler. One last question, Mr. Mergeneiler. If you were awarded a grant for this project, how would you feel? You'd feel guilty. Splendid. You shall receive your check in the morning.
Don't scream! Give me your purse!
Look, I'm not going to scream. Let's just try to discuss this.
Look, lady, 3 times this week, bras discussed me not taking their pocketbooks. I gotta make a living too, you know? Faster than a steam bullet. Oh my God! More powerful than a locomotive. Leaps over buildings in single bound. Superman! That scoundrel won't harm you again, madam, or else you'll have to reckon with the likes of Superman.
What is this, a joke?
Indeed, no, madam. Superman doesn't joke. Superman doesn't have a sense of humor.
Well, you couldn't really be.
But I am.
You mean the guy who I used to read about in comic books all the time?
Superman, madam. Superman.
There is something wrong here.
Madam?
Well, that costume, doesn't it make you look lumpy when you wear your street clothes? I mean, the cape and all.
Well, it is a little warm. I usually take summers off.
Well, why do you wear it?
What?
The costume, the cape, why do you wear it?
It's the uniform of Superman, madam.
Well, it's rather effeminate, don't you think?
Hold on.
I mean, it's terribly skin tight. You're not a transvestite, are you? I mean, you don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
A what?
Well, you know. Do you rescue more men than women?
I rescue only those in dire straits.
Why?
What? Why what? What?
Why does compose you to rescue? Are you a cop? Do you get paid for it? Is it your job?
Nobody hired me, if that's what you mean.
So you just do it for kicks? You run around in your blue, effeminate, skin-tight leotard and rescue people for the thrill of it?
I fight crime.
And you can't fight crime in a business suit?
You think I'm an exhibitionist?
Well, you can spend more time reading.
I think it's wrong to judge Superman the way you judge Earth people.
Look, everybody thinks they're special, but they don't run around in blue, effeminate, skin-tight leotards.
Okay. I do rescue more men than women. But more men get in trouble than women. I'm all right.
Look, I didn't say a word.
I know what you're thinking.
Well, how come you're not married?
I fight crime most of the time.
A man your age?
You can't judge me the way you judge other people. I admit, if I came from Earth and wore blue, effeminate, skin-tight leotards and rescued more men than women, it would seem suspicious. But I'm from Krypton.
Look, I'm not arguing.
I don't want you to go away with the wrong idea.
If it makes you more secure to be what you call Superman.
I am, I tell you I am. Do you want me to prove it to you? Do you want me to leap over a building in a single bound?
Honey, you don't have to prove anything to me. Why hurt yourself? What are these doubts that torment you so terribly that you have to run around proving your masculinity to everybody?
Okay, I'm not Superman, all right? You feel better? It's all a gag, all right?
You'll see. You've come to a wise conclusion.
But you will admit I'm better than average.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
Can I take you to the theater tomorrow night?
Oh, gee, I'm washing my hair.
The next night?
I'm really busy.
Can I see you sometime?
Well, evenings are really hard. Maybe for lunch, but you won't wear that costume, will you?
No, a suit. I swear a suit. I'll go out and buy a suit this very minute.
What's wrong? You're standing funny.
I've got a stomachache.
Well, are you all right? Can you get home okay?
It's only a little ways. I should make it if I go slow. You're very considerate.
Well, take it easy and don't rush around too much. You'll find you'll feel much better.
You've been a great help. I'll be in touch.
And drink some hot soup.
Don't scream! Give me your purse!
Superman, come quick! Superman!
Who?
into CATE, and then into Harvard, and then after that, she can do her graduate work in cowgirl at either Stanford or UCLA. And then Mommy said, well, doesn't that make you happy, Jody? And then I started to cry. And then Daddy said, well, what's wrong, Jody? And I said, I changed my mind. I want to be a nurse.
Mr. Merganila. Yes, this is Mr. Sacrosanct of your telephone company. Now, what I'm calling about is your request for an unlisted number. Now, you see, according to our records, Mr. Merganila, you already have a phone with us, and, well, it is listed. Now, the number you wish to have unlisted, is this to be a new number or the number now listed? Now, you see, the reason I'm asking you is, Mr. Merganila, if it's the new number you wish to have unlisted, there will be a deletion charge. I'm sure you can understand the expense, but every single name in the telephone book will have to be moved up one. On the other hand, if it's the new number you wish to have unlisted, there will be no deletion charge. However, there will be an anonymity charge to keep your name stricken from the rolls in either case. I see. Well, now, Mr. Mercandealer, before you have your phone taken completely out, let me tell you about our monthly expense for homes which once patronized but have since rejected their telephone company. Now, you see, what this means is if you ever, and I mean ever, want your phone again, you'll have to pay arrears. Now, about that unlisted number, I was wondering, I was just a little curious, if you ever thought about having more than one phone. I mean, it costs so little extra to have another extension. Well, I see. Well, Mr. Mercandealer, don't scream at me, Mr. Mercandealer. I didn't force you to do business with me. Why I ought it? You can always go to one of our competitors.
Man, that's what a rebel is. I mean, he don't talk up to no judge. He don't say it's a bad rap, 'cause he knows he's guilty. Like to him, just living is a crime. So he cuts out, you know, man, he withdraws, and he goes on his own and he says, Squares, I do not know you. That's rebellion, man. And he learns a new tongue, like a different language or something. And when the squares come around, he says, what are they saying? That's rebellion, man. And soon, he's so withdrawn, he only hears himself. So he writes it in a book. And the squares say, hey, here's the latest. And they buy his withdrawal, and everyone makes a mint. That's rebellion, man.
In this dance, I have symbolized peace on earth and goodwill to all men. Wait a minute! I don't want you to think I mean anything funny by that statement. I mean, peace, yes, but without appeasement on the aforementioned earth, and naturally, goodwill to all men. Wait a minute! By goodwill, I mean you should have goodwill to those men who are, you know, all men of goodwill. Wait a minute! By all men, I mean only those men whom you recognize as willing to see your side as well as their own, so long as they don't have a double standard and pretend to be uncommitted. So, really what this dance symbolizes is a responsible, cautious approach to arms control on earth and fruitful negotiation to some men.
I used to work for the FBI, underground agent, to check out communist infiltration, assigned to the new left. All pretty routine, demonstrating, disrupting, occupying. Then I met Edna, soft, compelling, doctrinaire. She fell in love. I fell in love. We decided on marriage, but my secret separated us. I had to tell her. I proceeded to do so. On our wedding night, I reported, Edna, I'm an underground agent for the FBI. Edna wept. Then she told me her secret. Sam, she reported, I'm an underground communist, assigned to infiltrate the new left. You can imagine what followed. A lover's quarrel. I insisted Edna give up her work. She insisted I give up mine. We consulted a marriage counselor. He advised us to compromise. All forms of extremism are misguided, he reported. Quit your respective jobs and join a community center. I couldn't. Edna couldn't. We said goodbye, and I turned her in. I'll always wait for you, Edna.
Dear Mother, arrived at camp this a.m. Received 6 shots and an indoctrination lecture about defending the free world. I want to come home.
Dear son, be a man. You are always with us in our hearts, and we are sure you will get used to it.
Dear Mother, this a.m. they showed us films about the enemies of the free world. They're all from the University of California. One of the fellows in our barracks comes from there. We're hiding him. I want to come home.
Dear son, tell your captain we'd only send you to a good school. Don't associate with troublemakers. And be a man.
Dear Mother, marched to and from the church of our choice this a.m. and given our 12th indoctrination lecture. Captain says we must defend ourselves against enemies from within. Everyone who chose wrong church of his choice received a stern warning. I want to come home.
Dear son, I'm sure your captain's only interested in what's best for you, and as do we, has you always in his heart. Ask him to check off the right church for us to go to, and be a man.
Dear Mother, received our 25th indoctrination lecture this a.m. from a new captain. He said the Army was liberalizing its information program and encouraged us to ask questions. I asked him to define free world. He called me a Pinko College wise guy. Ordered me on extra detail and wanted to know what kind of family I came from. I want to come home.
Dear son, if you came home now, they'd only follow you and find us. Don't tell them anything until we've had a chance to move and change our name. For God's sake, stop making trouble and be a man. Wherever you go, you and your army will always be with us in our hearts.
For years, those of us who have toiled in the vineyards of suburban civil defense have been concerned with the problem of how to maintain law and order following a nuclear assault. The big cities would, of course, be annihilated, thereby simplifying their civil defense problems immeasurably. However, for those of us in suburbia, there are bound to be complications. We would be subject to mass onslaughts of refugees from the cities. While our hearts, as all hearts must, go out to these victims, they do pose a threat to our carefully planned program. How can one tell a radioactive mob that they wouldn't be happy in our town? No, we can only preserve our way of life by barricading our streets and redirecting all migrant traffic to the public highways, aiding them perhaps with improved directional signs and free road maps. But when man's survival is at stake, he may well surrender to the baser instincts. Our barricades might have to be defended by force of arms. But just as we are willing to go to war to defend our freedom, so we shall be willing to defend what's left of it by manning these suburban barricades. Remember, in suburban civil defense, our motto is, if you can't get yourself a Russian, settle for an American.
When I was a kid, we lived in a slum. My family was on relief, and I had to quit school at 12. And I used to say to the world, "Listen, world, you're not gonna lick me, world. I'm out to buy me a dream. A golden dream, world. A steady job, where a man can use his hands, yeah! And buy clothes for his family, and food for his children. A lover's dream, world. A small house in the country, a white picket fence, a dog for our kids, a family car. Are you listening, world? I'm gonna send rockets to the moon, yeah! Tear stars out of the sky, yeah! Put my name up in lights. Yeah, world, yeah! The American dream. So now I make $500,000 a year, own a townhouse and a country estate, keep an expensive second wife, and raise a tall, handsome son who's been to Europe 4 times and has owned 5 different cars since he was 16. And he says to me, "You're suffocating me." Son of the dream.
He says, "Mama, I'm not well emotionally. I need a psychiatrist." So I send him to a psychiatrist. After all, if you can't help your own son, what's a mother for? So one day he comes home. He says, "Mama, psychoanalysis has taught me home is a smothering influence. I'm moving out. Moving out." So I find him his own apartment. After all, if you can't help your own son, what's a mother for? I give him rent money. I give him psychiatrist money. I give him a little extra so he should enjoy himself. Listen, what would I do with it? What's a mother for? So one day he calls up. He says, "Mama, you're giving me all this money so I should feel guilty. Guilt is a mother's weapon." All right, why argue? What does it get you? So I stop paying his rent, and I stop paying his psychiatrist, and I stop giving him anything extra. It's been over a month. He's dispossessed. He can't find a job. His psychiatrist is suing him. But listen, so long as he's happy.
Once, there was a man named George who lived on the moon. No kidding. George didn't have much to do on the moon. He slept, and he took long walks, and he kept trying to figure out how he got there.
There must be a logical explanation.
But he never made any headway. Aside from feeling that he was basically non-moon, he had no idea who he was or how he got there. All he knew definitely was that undoubtedly his name was George.
One must begin somewhere.
And that somehow he was unique.
I own the moon. It's mine. Every inch of it. Sometimes I feel rather smug about it. Hi, my moon. One day I'll change your name to George.
But this was a false exuberance. George felt no real connection with the land.
How can I when I bounce all the time?
Mostly, he was concerned with his roots. He thought about them quite a bit, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't come up with a single thing. So then he'd concentrate on his values, because if he could sort out his values, that would tell him something about his background. And if he knew something about his background, that would give him some indication of his roots. But he couldn't come up with a single value. All of which was pretty depressing. Then one day, George decided,
my trouble is, I'm too introspective. I need some outside interests.
So he began a rock collection.
Rocks! Millions of rocks! I bet nobody's ever collected this many rocks! I hate rocks.
Rocks had no meaning for George. He began to count craters.
All I am is a statistician.
George felt that he was thinking too much. He needed to regain the feeling of his body. So he learned to drop kick his rocks into his craters.
500 points.
But he ran out of rocks. George was just filling up time and he knew it. What good was it to collect rocks and to count craters and to fill the craters you've counted with the rocks you've collected and to take the rocks out and start all over again? Was it a way for a man to spend a life?
It lacks dignity.
George recognized that he had no sense of himself. Also that he had no sense of others. How could he have any dignity without a context? He had no idea who he was, or what, or anything.
A man has to believe in something.
And since he was the only thing around, George decided to believe in himself.
Hail George!
He made up poems to himself.
George, George! George! George, George! George.
He made up stories to himself.
So George cured the plague, ended the famine, and turned back the flood.
And then one day he awoke and found that he had forgotten his name.
This serves me right. That's what I get.
So he stopped believing in himself. He looked around for other things to believe in. He tried to believe in rocks. Hail! But they seemed so ordinary. He tried to believe in craters. Hail! But since he had kicked his rocks into his craters, he hadn't much respect for them. He needed something spectacular, something way beyond his experience. And then one day he looked up and noticed space.
That's what I'll believe in!
There were all sorts of advantages to believing in space. For one thing, it was out there, way out there.
And it fills up everything! I mean, that's pretty impressive.
It was obviously unknown.
It can never be disillusioning.
It was dark, with white blotches. Quite attractive, really. Much more imposing than all those rocks and craters he used to worship.
You know, it's amazing how I matured.
George spent his days dreaming about space.
If space is really there, and I know it must be there because I can see it, then I must be really here, or else I wouldn't know it's there because I couldn't see it. And if I am here, and I can see space, then space must, in all logic, be able to see me, which proves that I exist. Space and George. George and space. A team.
It almost made him feel like crying. Then one day they started shooting rockets off at him. George was overjoyed.
They're coming for me! This way, fellas! This way!
George tied a red undershirt to a big rock.
If you really believe, it has to come true!
But the rockets didn't even come close. George wasn't too sad. Space was no longer mysterious and intangible. Space had people in it, and they were trying to reach him. He sat all day on the dark side and dreamed about them.
Well, first of all, they must be very kind to go to all this trouble. They must be very humanitarian and have lots of favorite charities. They'll come and we'll have a big party, and I'll be very polite and ask them if they'd like to stay over. But they'll say, well, we do have to be getting back, and we'll take off, and I'll be home, wherever that is, and there'll be big parades and testimonial dinners, all because I'm the only expert on the moon.
But then George realized he didn't know anything about the moon at all.
I only live here.
Didn't know whether those holes actually were craters. Maybe they're coal mines.
Why do I always wait to the last minute?
Didn't know why it was that he could bounce, or how come he could breathe without a helmet, or why, though, he was never hungry even though there was no food to eat.
My trouble is, I'm not very observant. They'll come expecting all kinds of answers, and what can I tell them? Nothing! Oh, I'm sure they'll be very nice about it. They'll pretend not to even notice. They'll say, "My, but don't you dress neatly." I'll feel like a fool!
One day, they shot off another rocket. George tied his red undershirt again, but this time on a less conspicuous rock. He began to feel anxious about the whole thing.
What do they want from me? I'm not analytical. They'll just have to understand. Oh, a fat lot they'll care. They'll be scientists. Cold, dispassionate, no time for my problems. They probably don't even know I'm here.
But once more, the rocket didn't even come close.
Wise guys.
But George knew ultimately that they would come. George sat all day on the dock side and dreamed about what it would be like.
They'll come out of those damn rockets, and I bet the first thing they do is stick up their flag on my moon. And then they'll give me their bags to carry. And they'll make fun of me. You mean, you didn't know about gravity? They'll say. Hear that, gang? Been on the moon all this time, and he didn't know about gravity. And they'll tell lots of inside jokes. We'd love to take you back with us, they'll say, but you see how crowded we are with all these rock samples. Would you mind giving us a shove?
George thought about the way it used to be. The fun he had, drop kicking his rocks into his craters. What a ball it was to sit around on the dockside and dream about his roots.
They spoiled it!
And then one day, they shot off another rocket. George used body English to make it go away, but the rocket kept coming.
It's an invasion!
Then, suddenly, all the fear and indecision which had grasped him for weeks was no more. George knew what he had to do.
This is war. I don't care how many rocks they have. I know the terrain.
And he patiently waited.
Hey, look out in the street, Charlene. Some lady's being chased by a guy with a rock.
Probably lovers. Don't get involved, Doris.
Yeah, but he caught her. Hey, listen to her scream.
Mind your own business and shut the window, Doris.
I wonder if we should call the police.
Don't borrow trouble. The first thing they want is your name.
Yeah, I think they print it up in the papers and you start getting those weirdo phone calls.
Yeah, absolutely no consideration.
Anyhow, it's over. She's just lying there.
Come away from the window, Doris. It's not our business.
Hey, look across the street, Charlene. Some guy's going onto the window ledge. Where? Right there. Jump! Jump! Jump!
Try to see it my way. I am nearly 20, and if I was ever going to make a break, now's the time to do it. Imagine, half my girlfriends were already separated from their husbands, and here I was, still living at home. So I told my parents I was moving out. You can't imagine the yelling and screaming. My father said, "You're breaking your mother's heart." My mother said, "What was my crime? What was my terrible crime?" And before I knew it, we were in an argument. And I told them both they needed analysis. And they said I had a filthy mouth. And suddenly, I was out on the street with my suitcase, my raincoat, and my tennis racket, but I had no place to move. Well, I looked around downtown, but everything was too expensive. And evening came, and all my girlfriends had reconciled with their husbands, so I had absolutely no place to spend the night. Well, frankly, what on earth could I do? I waited till it was way past my parents' bedtime. Then I snuck back into the house, and set the alarm in my bedroom for 6 the next morning. Then I slept on top of the bed so that I wouldn't wrinkle any sheets, sneaked breakfast in the morning, and got out before anyone was up. I've been living that way for 2 months now. Every night after midnight, I sneak into my bedroom and sleep on top of the bed till 6 in the morning. Then I have breakfast and get out before anyone is awake. And every day I call my parents from the downstairs drugstore, and they yell and cry at me to come home. But of course, I always tell them no. I'll never give up my independence.
Please let go, Frank. You've got to let go sometime. Love is more than mere possession. Love is giving rather than taking. Freeing rather than enslaving. Love is... Please loosen your grip, Frank. If you're afraid to let go, then it means you don't trust me. And if you don't trust me, it means you don't have any respect for yourself. If you don't have any respect for yourself, in time you'll force me to lose respect for you. And if I lose respect for you, I'll want to leave you. You are pleating my shirt, Frank. But with a looser hold, you free to go your way, I free to go mine, will be so much happier. Please try and see it my way, Frank.
You mean me? Free to go my way?
Why, yes.
That doesn't sound so bad.
Hold me!
Girl for the first time, and we're going to the movies. And as usual, I'm throwing out my breadcrumbs. And she asked me what it is I'm doing. And I tell her I'm throwing out my breadcrumbs so I can find my way home, because I got this bad sense of direction. And so she laughs, like it's a big joke. And I say I don't see why my personal troubles should make such a big joke. And then she says, look, don't worry, I'll take you home. So I got mad. I said, look, we each have our own way of finding ourselves. Who's to say yours is better than mine? And then she says, you can't make a whole life philosophy out of breadcrumbs. So right on the street, we had a fight. I got so mad, I walked away and completely forgot to follow my breadcrumbs. An amazing thing happened. I had no trouble getting home. It seems to make my whole past life invalid.
See me?
I can't talk to you when you're like this. I just can't get through anymore.
It's because you live in your own little private world. Open it up, air it out. Look at me, look at me.
Always it's you, never it's me. I'm a person, I have rights.
I can't talk to you, I just can't get through to you anymore.
I'm standing right in front of you, do you see me?
Always it's you, never it's me. I have rights, I'm a person.
You live in your own private little world. Open it up, air it out. Look at me, look at me. What's the use? You haven't heard a single word I said.
What?
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 The waves, the sand, the sea, the summer flowers, the sandpipers,
the good fisher folk, insect repellent, the main boardwalk, baby oil. All are gathered in an organic community, and all testify to man and nature being as one.
Bernard. You know it's all psychosomatic.
With you, everything with me is psychosomatic.
Well?
Look, I admit that when I get stomach aches, it's psychosomatic, don't I?
You do.
All right. Now, I admit that when I get sinus troubles, it's psychosomatic, don't I? Don't I?
All right, Bernard, you do.
Okay, so if I've got something in my eye, let me decide if it's psychosomatic or not, all right?
All right, Bernard, how does it feel?
It's out.
Good, don't rub it.
Where were we?
I was just breaking up with you.
Oh my God, I've got a nosebleed!
Ever since I was a little kid, I didn't want to be me. I wanted to be Billy Whittleton, and Billy Whittleton didn't even like me. I walked like he walked. I talked like he talked. I signed up for the high school he signed up for, which was when Billy Whittleton changed. He started to hang around Herbie Vandeman. He walked like Herbie Vandeman. He talked like Herbie Vandeman. He mixed me up. Here I was walking and talking like Billy Whittleton, walking and talking like Herbie Vandeman. And then it dawned on me. Herbie Vandeman walked and talked like Joey Haverland. And Joey Haverland walked and talked like Corky Savinson. So here I am, walking and talking like Billy Whittleton's imitation of Herbie Vandeman's version of Joey Haverland trying to walk and talk like Corky Savinson. And who do you think Corky Savinson is always walking and talking like? Of all people, Dopey Kenny Wellington, that same little pest who walks and talks like me.
I greet the world with a smile. Hello, world. You know, I used to think you were my enemy, but I was wrong. Then I thought you were my friend, but I was wrong again. But now I've researched and read up and talked to all my intelligent friends. Now I know where you stand, world. Why, you don't even know I exist, world. As long as you stay neutral, I stand a chance. Everybody knows, brought about the collapse of civilization. Towns, cities, and villages disappeared from Earth. All the groves and forests were destroyed, and all the gardens and all the works of art. Men, women, and children became lower than the lower animals.
Discouraged and disillusioned, dogs deserted their fallen masters. Embroiled by the pitiful condition of the former lords of the earth, rabbits descended upon them. Books, paintings, and music disappeared from the earth, and human beings just sat around doing nothing. Years and years went by. Even the few generals who were left had forgotten what the last war had decided. Boys and girls grew up to stare at each other blankly, for love had passed from the earth.
One day, a young girl who had never seen a flower chanced to come across the last one in the world. She told the other human beings that the last flower was dying. The only one who paid any attention to her was a young man she found wandering about. Together, the young man and the girl nurtured the flower, and it began to live again.
One day, a bee visited the flower, and a hummingbird. Before long, there were 2 flowers, and then 4, and then a great many. The girl began to take an interest in how she looked. The young man discovered that touching the girl was pleasurable.
Love was reborn into the world. Their children grew up strong and healthy and learned to laugh and run. Dogs came out of their exile. The young man discovered, by putting one stone upon another, how to build a shelter.
Pretty soon, everybody was building shelters. Towns, cities, and villages sprang up. Song came back to the world, and troubadours and jugglers, and tailors and cobblers, and painters and poets, and sculptors and wheelwrights.
And soldiers, and lieutenants, and captains, and generals, and major generals, and liberators. Some of the people went one place to live, and some another. Before long, those who had gone to live in the valleys wished they had gone to live in the hills, and those who had gone to live in the hills wished they had gone to live in the valleys.
The liberators, under the guidance of God, set fire to the discontent. So presently, the world was at war again. This time, the destruction was so complete that nothing at all was left in the world.
Except one man,
one woman,
and one flower.
One more very big hand. I guess it was a short while ago we started this process, and this is the final thing. This is the only time it's ever going to happen. I tell them that every single show. It makes them crazy. I am very proud of this group. I have many thanks. I had lots of help with this. Jennifer Ferlin, Lola Muldrew, wherever you are, please stand up. And Michael Sokol for lighting, beautiful lighting and choreography, along with Lola and Jennifer. Stand up, please, wherever you may be. Give them some help. Great tech crew. There were over 70 kids involved with this production.
I think the most exciting aspect of this show is the addition of our new music director, Brian Howard, who did compose all of the music you heard tonight, of course, with the exception of a George Winston piece at the end. But all of the music that you heard was composed by our new music director, Brian Howard. Thank you very much. Drive with care. Bye-bye. Night.